I was thinking more along the lines of pump up the jam, pump it up.
Pump it up. Well,
Sorry. I watched this
yeah,
Netflix
turn it.
show called Kunk on Earth, and
Conk on Earth,
she
indeed,
worked
yes.
that into every episode, all 5 episodes or
Every episode, like
whatever.
3 or 4
Yeah.
times.
Pump
Yes.
up the jam. And I learned that they're Belgian. They're a Belgian supergroup. I did not know that. I learned something.
That's right.
But we are live, and we are doing. What if everybody else is live going to join us? I've forgotten how to see if I. It doesn't look like everybody's joined us yet, but I did just post in the Discord. Neutral is there. Hello,
Of course.
Neutral.
Hello, Neutral.
Yeah. All right. So we have never done one of these videos live before, but we have done a series for a while where we talk about our favorite game that we played in a given month. And it didn't have to be a new game, right? It could just be an old favorite. It was just your favorite game session. And in fact, in past months, I've picked, a game session that was, not necessarily even the best game that I played, but something about that session just was a really good session. So anyway, we are a little bit behind, so we're going to do March and April live, which is really just an excuse for us to talk about 2 games each. And then at the end, we'll ask, whoever's online, like Neutral, what their best plays were, and then we'll make fun of the. No, I'm just kidding. In fact, I know that Neutral's going to like some of the games that we list here. So, all right, great. So, all right, let's just go ahead and jump into it. Let's get started. And right off the bat, we have Erock's #1 game.
Hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I just want to start off by saying my 2 picks tonight are kind of a mix of one of my favorite games and one of my favorite sessions lately. So my #1 top play of the past 2 months is Twa. I love Twa. Yeah, every once in a while I do get a chance to talk about it. I don't really understand the lack of love for this game because I love it so much. But I was able to play it recently and it was just so much fun. I just love this game so much. For those of you who are unaware, which is probably a lot of people, because again, it doesn't get enough love. This is a kind of a dice manipulation used as worker placement kind of game. In a brief nutshell, basically what you can do is you can use groups of 1, 2, 3 of the same colored dice. There are 3 colors matching like the 3 different parts of the board. You use 1, 2, 3 of those dice, and then you add up all the pips and you divide it by a certain number depending upon the card you're using it on. So if it's like /3, then 12 over 3 would be 4 actions. If it was /6, 12 over 6 would only be 2 actions on that particular card. I think it's really nifty. For some reason I said nifty, but it's nifty, people. I really like how you do these mental calculations in your head with the different dice. And you know what? I'm going to throw in one more thing for you. You can buy dice from each other. So when I sit there and I make this huge plan while it's your turn and it comes to me, and then on your turn, you go, I'm going to buy that dice from you. And then that just wrecked my whole plan. I mean, thank you for the money. Yes. But I had plans for those dice. Please don't do that, but too late, way the game goes. So I really enjoy that facet of it as well because it throws a little bit of a monkey wrench into things. It ends up basically being that nobody gets to do what they want, but everybody gets to do something cool anyway. The way it kind of works out, you're kind of also, it's almost a semi-co-op. It is not a semi-co-op, but it's almost a semi-co-op because you also have to fight the bad guys. It depends on what cards flip. So it might be brigands or resistance or maybe even something like the plague. And then you have to use the dice that you would have used for your normal actions on these other events to basically just sap them away from you so that you don't have them to use for your normal actions. I think this game is fantastic. Oh, wait, there's one more thing. And this is what I absolutely love about this game. So there are 6 things that you can possibly score in this game. All right. I don't know if I'm going to remember them all, but it's like workers in buildings, workers on cards, your influence, your money, how many cards have you defeated, and how many people you have building the cathedral. 6 different things that you can do in this game. At the start of the game, everybody gets one of 6 cards that you shuffle up and give to everybody. They look at it. That's one of the things we're scoring this game. So in like a 3-player game, only half of those things are actually being scored, but you don't know what they are. You only know what one of the 3 things being scored is. So a lot of this game is trying to figure out what the other people are trying to actually do to get the points for their card at the end. But it is so brilliantly put together that everything interconnects. So you might think, oh, Eric's getting a lot of money. He's going to score money. But you know what? I need money to put stuff on these cards to do these other actions that'll get me dice that I can roll to put guys in the cathedral, which will also give me influence that'll build that number up. So like it's this whole circle of interconnectedness. And right when you think you've got something figured out that somebody's doing, then they make a left turn. You're like, oh, maybe I was wrong the whole time. And that thing that I've been trying to work on just because I thought maybe they were scoring is now nothing. Not going to score at all. And then meanwhile, I'm still trying to do like secretly my thing that I know we're scoring without making it too obvious. I really like this game. I think it could have been a really good Euro without that part of the game. And I think this part of the game really just elevates it. It's one of my favorite games. Got to play it recently. I will talk ad infinitum about how much I love Troyes.
Nice. I've actually never played it. I'm not a huge fan of games where people steal stuff from you, partially because I like to sort of pre-plan my turn. So then if you steal something from me and it's like, well, now I've got to replan everything, and then I feel like I'm slowing the game down, and etc. But, the way you describe this, it seems like there's always some stuff you can do and probably always stuff you need to do. So it's not that big of a burden when you lose something. And so, in games like that, I'm okay with it, right? It's those games where you have to like pre-plan a huge series of actions, and then somebody just like sticks in them, throws a stick in the middle of your wheel that's turning, and everything falls apart. That I'm just
every once in a while somebody gets you pretty good with oh no, but you just gotta like understand if there's any point in time somebody might buy my dice. If I don't use them right now this turn, then that's my choice that I didn't use those particular ones that you end up buying. So you got to prioritize and you just got to live with it. But once you accept it, I think it's just fantastic.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, I would definitely play it, and I have never played it, and maybe someday you will teach it to me.
Put it on the list.
Put it on the I wasn't going to say it, but you did. All right, well, let's shift on over to Tiffany then. Tiffany, you ready for your number 1?
Yeah, so this was a really interesting little game that I played with some friends at game night. We had a big group and we were trying to figure out what we were going to play because the group doesn't really like to split up once everybody has arrived. So we were looking at games and somebody mentioned this game, When I Dream, and I had never heard about it. I wasn't familiar with it, but it sounded interesting, so we took it out and we played it. It comes with a sleep mask. You don't have to use it, but one person will have their eyes closed each round. That person is it, and they're guessing what the dream was, or they're observing the dream. So what's going to happen is they're going to close their eyes, and there's going to be a top card on the deck, and it's going to have a random word on it. And I can't remember if it
was like 2 things. It would be like a tree and a penguin.
Yeah,
and
you can only see one at a time.
Depending upon which way you're orienting it, that's your word.
Right. So, but you only do one at a time. And so I think it's all nouns. I don't remember how abstract it gets, but what people do is they take turns. They go around the circle of people that are playing the game, not the person that has their eyes closed. They're going to look at the word that's on the card and they're going to give a clue. And then it's going to pass to the next person, and that person is going to give a clue. And you're trying to lead the person in the direction to guess what the word is. When they think they know, they just blurt out what they think the word is, and then they keep their eyes closed. And that the group sorts the cards into one of 2 piles, correct or incorrect. So if they got it correct, so you put it in the correct pile. If they got it incorrect, you put it in the incorrect pile, and you move on to the next card. And you start giving clues for that particular word that's on the next card. And then when the timer runs up, I think it's a minute, when the timer is up, the person who was guessing the words has to keep their eyes closed and they have to remember as many words from their dream or as much of their dream as they possibly can. So the idea is to help you remember. It's a, like there's that trick that you like create a story. So maybe it was like lamp, followed by carriage, followed by milk. And so you make up a story. I turned on the lamp and I remembered that I had a carriage ride later to get milk from the store. So you have to that's just one way that you can remember the words, but it kind of creates a story. And so you can tell people what your dream was. And then you get points based on how many words you got correct and how much of your dream, if you remembered your whole dream or all the words that you got correct, then you get bonus points for that. But you go around, everybody gets to be the guesser one time. And it's just an interesting, fun, quick little game that I thought was a fun take on the, what's the word, guess the word kind of thing that kind of combines a couple of different elements. But I thought it was a unique way to do it. So
you missed the hook. Part of this is the
deceiver.
Right, exactly. Remember at the beginning.
For the hook, for me, is remembering your dream. That's
true, right? For you, it is, right? But the other people around the table, at the very beginning of the round, everybody gets a card. And either you're trying to get them to answer correctly, you're trying to get them to answer wrong, or my favorite, you want an even split of right and wrong. So people's clues may or may not actually be valid depending upon the word and their motivations, which puts a really interesting spin on this game, I think.
Yeah.
Because...
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, because when we were playing, I would look at you sometimes what are you doing? You are completely sabotaging our efforts.
I'm like, yes, I am. I am sabotaging your efforts.
Just shut up. But the nice thing is that if you're too off base with what your clues are, then that person can kind of just figure out, oh, I'm just not gonna listen to this person's clues because I think they're the person that is trying to get me to be all wrong.
But
the deceiver.
But the person dreaming only gets one guess, so you can't be too. I mean, you want to be quick about it because that's part of the game, but you can't be because you only get that one guess. And with somebody out there who is purposefully lying to you, I can't remember exactly what the card was. Maybe it was like castle or something like that. And the first person giving a clue said king, and the next person said queen. And the next person said pawn because they were one of the liars, right?
Yeah,
I was like, that's good.
Clever.
Yeah.
I think the hardest part for us was remembering not to sell it because you can't give away whether you're right or wrong. You know what I'm saying? So the first time we played, it was I don't know what it was. And they said rice. And we're like, yeah. I was like, oh yeah, sorry.
Oh, you don't tell them whether they were right or wrong. Okay. I didn't remember that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So,
yeah. It's a fun, and it plays a lot of people, right? I mean,
yes.
Can you go to 10 or something? I don't know.
I think that's right. Something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't see why it couldn't go more than that anyway, because it's really just handing out those cards that say whether you're trying to get them right, trying to get them wrong.
I mean, there's probably a balance, right? There's only one card that says you're the person who wants a balance, and then maybe two deceivers, and so you can't really have more than 6 of the other or something, whatever. So there's probably just a balance issue. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it would scale, pretty good. Although that would also make it harder to, if you scaled it too high, it would make it hard to figure out who the liars are.
To figure out who's the liars are.
Because sometimes the liar, it just becomes obvious. And then once you know who the liar is, you just have to make a mental note to it. And that's hard, by the way, right? All right, I know Adam is lying, but he's still saying something when it's going around and your brain is processing it. You've got to know that. And then there's the meta, well, now you know he's the liar. He knows he's the liar. Now he's giving you a valid clue. That is just,
Well, that's what I'm saying. The most confusing are the ones that want the equal split between right and wrong, because they're giving wrong things half the time and right things half the time. So you have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good game. Good choice. I would definitely play this if it were offered, particularly if my brain was already burned from a day at a con. It'd be a good way to close out the night.
For sure.
All right, so we're going to move on to my number one, so I've mentioned this before on the channel that I am a bit of a Luke Laurie fanboy, right? I mean, I played, let's see, what was the order I did them in? Manhattan Project Energy Empire, And then I came to your place and we played 2 games.
We
And
did
let me
play
see.
2.
I
Yes.
think it was Whistle Mountain, followed by Dwellings of Eldervale. Dwellings of Eldervale is a bit big of a production for me, but I did buy Whistle Mountain and played it several times since. And then, so I saw in some virtual flea market or something, or whatever, it just popped up. It's like, well, that's a Luke Laurie game. I'll just buy it. I don't even, I don't even know what what this game is about. But that game that I ended up playing and really enjoying is Cryo. So Cryo has got this weird sort of story behind it that there are different factions on a colony ship that were sent out, and for whatever reason they were fighting on the colony ship and like sabotage the ship, and it's crashing onto this inhospitable planet instead of where it was supposed to go, and now the wreck is on the planet, and you've got to get all the colonists into the caverns before the sun sets because the surface is uninhabitable after the sun sets. But you only care about your colonists from your faction. You don't care about the other ones. There's a lot of different things you do in the game. It is a worker placement game. You place these drones out on different sections of the crashed ship. You can get resources. You can collect the cryopods that have the people in them. You can send those to the caverns. It's really interesting also because you collect these things that you can you have a board where you dock your drones and you build up a little bit of an engine so that when the drones come back, they do something when they come back. And so you decide what they do, exchange this resource for this resource, or whatever it is. So you build this little bit of engine on your board. And, in a lot of games, the recall action is just like a no-op lost turn. Just take your stuff back. But in this one, it's not. You pull your drones back, you dock them at your station, and you get to run the engine that you've made. And another cool thing about that is, so not only is pulling back not punishing, but now sometimes it makes strategic sense to pull back even though you haven't deployed all your drones, particularly early on in the game when your board isn't all fleshed out and you don't get maximum benefit from recalling anyway. But, like I was last in turn order, and, being last in turn order in a worker placement game sucks, right? So, 3 drones were out there, I think it was, and then instead of placing my 4 drones, I just went ahead and recalled. And then everybody after me had to recall because all their drones were out. And so now I've got a fresh empty board to start deploying my stuff. So I've sort of seized initiative by calling my stuff back early, and it wasn't like it was detrimental to me in any way. I like the engine building on your platform. I like that putting your pods in the different caverns underground is an area control thing for points because you want your faction to control the different caverns. So you've got player interaction with that, trying to get the majorities there. You've got the player interaction and the fact that it's a worker placement, right? So you've got to say, man, I know Erock's going to take that space if I don't go do this now. But if I don't do that, Tiffany will take that. So you've got that whole thing going on. You have to, when you recall, you have to put out these tokens, which could just give you something, or you can sabotage your opponents as well. So there's some player interaction there as well. And then one of my favorite things in games is multi-use cards. And the cards in this game are, what is it, like 4 or 5 things? You can take a card and you can deploy it as a ship, which is how you move people from your drone board to the caverns. You can deploy it as a mission, which is like an in-game scoring objective. You can discard it for some resources, or you can put it at the top of the board as like a tech upgrade. So you have to do something to trigger playing of these cards, but I really like multi-use cards. Like, what am I going to use this card for? It's pretty cool. So yeah, there's a lot of things I like here. The worker placement with a cool engine building thing when you recall multi-use cards. The sci-fi theme is cool with me. It has the right level of player interaction for how I like to play a game. Unless I'm just playing a war game or something. Like if I'm playing some game that's just totally in your face, fight and smack each other, that's fine too. But in this kind of sort of resource management worker placement game, this is the right level of player interaction that I like. So yeah, once again, Luke Laurie did not let me down, and that means I'll probably just buy his next game when it comes out too. So yeah.
That's kind of his signature, isn't it? Like you do stuff when you recall. Like Whistle Mountain has that when you recall the blimps.
Dwellings of Eldervale has it too.
Dwellings has
right?
that. Yeah, as long as you don't bring them back from death, they all do it. Bring back action.
Yeah, Energy Empire is a little bit different. It has that thing where you trigger everything on your board that matches the color of the thing you were doing. I don't remember you doing anything special when you recall, but maybe you generate energy when you recall. Gosh, it's been a while since I played Energy Empire, but it's a good game.
Never played it.
I'm not complaining. Good, because there's a lot of games where, like for instance, asking for troubles. If you have to recall, you just skipped a turn.
Yeah.
So applause to thinking of ways to actually make something happen when you got to do that. So.
Yeah, and then of course it just means that now you can strategically recall even though you don't need to, and that's that's one thing I like about it. That's one more decision that makes sense. All right, cool. So yeah, Cryo, I recommend it. Check it out. And now we will pass back over to Erock for his second game.
One more time around the block. All right. So my second game tonight is the other thing that I was talking about. Not necessarily my favorite game, but it was a fantastic session. And my number 2 game is... Oh, I forgot the name. Go ahead, put it up there.
Nemesis.
Nemesis. Yes, there you go. Nemesis. I'm like aliens.
Aliens.
No, it's not aliens. It's aliens. No, it's not aliens. It's Nemesis. Nemesis is a big, giant production that is basically the movie Alien without the license. I mean, if you know the movie Alien, trust me, it's almost that exactly. It just without the license. You're in a ship. You got to kind of wander around. One of the weird things is like you're in this ship and you wake up from cryo sleep and you don't know where anything is. Like it's your ship. Like that's just a little bit weird. I guess maybe the cryo sickness or whatever.
Maybe
you
you're
can't
just
remember.
a passenger. I don't know.
I guess that's possible. But anyway, like there's this giant ship and there's all these different rooms, and not all the rooms are necessarily out for every mission. Like there's a set number of rooms, but there's a whole lot of tiles. Certain things will definitely be out there, like the engines and the bridge and things like that, but some of the other rooms might not be. So you got to kind of wander around and find these other rooms where you might find ammunition and stuff like that. But basically, every time you move, you make noise. And it's only a matter of time before you make enough noise that the aliens start coming out of the vents and stuff. And then you got to fight them or run from them or whatever. And this game is basically, there's a whole lot of fancy ways to describe it. It is a versus game. Don't let anybody tell you it's not a versus game. There might be somebody who happens to align with what you're trying to do, but it is in no way a co-op. Everybody gets 2 mission cards, and you pick one of them. At a certain point in the game, you get rid of one, and you keep the other one. At that point, you're committing to this mission. Now, you might have gotten 2 mean missions and had to choose between them. I might have gotten 2 nice missions and had to choose between them. But the whole point is, you have to stay alive and accomplish your goal. And again, maybe we're aligned on that. Maybe both Steve and I want to make it to Earth and go to sleep. And we might be able to work together to do that. But meanwhile, Tiffany's on the same ship as us, and she might want to blow up the ship. So you just never know. The one thing that I really like about this game is that there's no direct player versus player. So even though you might have a mission that says player B must die, you can't shoot player B. But what you can do is do something like make a bunch of noise and attract a bunch of aliens and then run away and let them deal with it. That kind of a thing. I just want to put out here, much to the disgust of Will and Mr. Fox, I did not abandon Babe on the escape pod. I tried very hard, like 3 times, to get her in the escape pod with me. That resulted in my death, and everybody else won the game. Isn't that nice? Well, I don't think Matt did, actually. I think Matt was like, you had to die for Matt to win.
Yeah, I had to die for him to win. Yeah.
Right. So everybody but me and Matt won. I would have won. All I
You
would have
would
to do
have
is get
won.
on the escape pod and go, but I didn't because I was trying to get Babe on there too.
It wasn't just blind allegiance, though. To be fair, I unlocked that escape pod. So I like kind of midway through the game, I was like, hey, look, who wants to go on an escape pod with me? Let's go. And so Babe was like, I'll go. And I was like, cool, let's do it. So we got together and we fought our way to the escape pod, and but when it was time for both of us to get in there, there were bad guys in the room. And so you can't get into the escape pod if you roll noise and get the attention of the aliens and they come to you. So it just didn't work out for Babe to survive. But you did a valiant thing.
Thanks, babe.
And it was much appreciated.
And it was just because of your objective card.
Yes, exactly.
Also, I'm going to change your name right now to Meat Shield.
Well, it's kind of weird how it works. I mean, I totally understand it, but like if I get in the escape pod and then aliens show up, I have to get out of the escape pod. So you have to make a very like instantaneous decision when you get in the escape pod. Are you staying or are you leaving right now? And if you leave right now, you're in an escape pod and you're gone. If you stay, then this is what happened to us. Like 3 rotations of I get in the escape pod, an alien would show up, knock me out. Now we're both outside. She would get in the escape pod, an alien would show up, knock her out. Now we're both right outside. Like there was 3 or 4 rotations of the same thing happening until Babe gave up, ran away, put herself to sleep, and I got killed by the aliens.
Nice.
But it was awesome. It was a whole lot of fun. It was great to play. I don't know if we necessarily need to own this game, but it's a lot of fun to play every once in a while. You know what? If it was like a $60 game, maybe. But if you try to buy Nemesis, you're going to reach into the hundreds.
Yeah, I see that. I see that little Awaken Realms logo on the box, and I know what that means.
And don't get me wrong. If this sounds awesome to you at all, get it, because it is just as awesome as it sounds. It's probably the most thematic game I've played in months as far as it goes. So
and they towed the line real close on that IP here. I mean, I haven't played the game, but I've seen the pictures, and man, if you just put that in front of me, I'd be like, oh, that's H.H. Geiger, you know?
It's Alien. Yeah, exactly. They towed it so close I couldn't remember the name of the game when we started. So
yeah, exactly, right. Cool.
Nemesis.
All right. Now, all right, let's go back over to Tiffany to get your number 2.
All right, so we've talked about my number 2 before on the channel, but I haven't. So it's my turn to talk about this game. My number 2 is Adventure Tactics Domianne's Tower. It is a multiplayer game where you are adventuring together. It's a co-op. You are adventuring together, and you are trying to level up your character and advance in its class customization so that you can have the coolest deck of cards and be the coolest fighter that you can be. And then each level of the game, each like scenario that you're playing is a different activity that you need to use. It might be a gauntlet you need to get from one end to the other, or you know, whatever kind of little scenario they set up for you. But it's a different objective each time. But the really cool thing about this, I think, is the class customization part. And so, and we've talked about it before, so I won't belabor it, but if you haven't heard of it before, basically you're, after the first adventure, win or lose, you level up. And you have a base character or base class that you started with. I usually start with Cleric. And so you've got like your level 1 Cleric. You go off your first adventure, you lose miserably, such as life, you level up. You pick your next class. Now you can continue to specialize in Cleric and unlock the cards that come like farther down the Cleric tree, or you can add another class. You can kind of branch out a little bit and add another class into your hand. And so say this time I felt like I wasn't effective enough fighting, like I just didn't have enough fighting cards. So this time I'm gonna be a rogue. And so now I'm level 1 Cleric and a level 1 rogue. And so in exchange for picking level 1 rogue, I now have been given 1 or 2 different rogue cards to add to my deck, so that when I shuffle and play, I now have those kinds of cards, maybe more movement or maybe higher attack or that sort of thing. And so you do this until you qualify to unlock some really cool classes. Once you get, for instance, 1 of every class, then you unlock, I think it's called Champion. And that class has like its own special cards and its own abilities that it gets to do. And you might unlock Beastmaster, like if you have so many this and so many that. It's just like I have a variety of different classes that you can level up into.
And the menu.
So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Look at all these classes.
Yeah. Looking through the book is fun, and like trying to plan it out and then figuring out like, how am I going to strategize my levels so that I get the most bang for my buck while I level up. So it's just a lot of fun, and it's nice. It's a nice family game. We play it with Jacoby, who's 13. He really likes to sit down and play 2, 3, 4 of these missions at a time. He really enjoys that. And when we ask him, like, okay, so what do you want to do on Saturday? He often says Adventure Tactics, Domianne Towers. So it's just a fun way to spend time together. That makes it, but it's a fun game for the adults as well. It's not just a game. Like I can't play Stuffed Fables anymore. I don't ever want to play Stuffed Fables again. But this game I'm still having fun with, and I'm like, okay, it's still giving me some interesting decisions and some fun cards to play with, and I'm still having fun with it. So it has not overstayed its welcome yet. And I enjoyed it enough to make it my pick of the month. Adventure Tactics Domianne's Tower.
Yeah, I think this was maybe my pick of the month back in January or something. So I played through this with my wife and my 9-year-old twins. We did the whole just base campaign. We did the Into the Slimerverse promo mission as well. And my son, so frequently, we'll just be sitting around the house at the end of the day on a Saturday or Sunday or something, and we've got some time. I'll be like, hey, why don't we play a game? And my son always is like, let's do the Endless Dungeon, because he's read the whole book through, cover to cover, the flavor text and everything else at this point. And I'm just like, I got to be sort of prepared and committed to play this game, right? To pull this out and set it up and get everything laid out, and like, what are the rules again? Because it's been a couple months since we played it. But one of these days I'm going to have to pull it out and try that Endless Dungeon. But I was very proud of my Monk Demon Slayer combo. Nice. Getting 2 of those elite classes together can be pretty powerful. Nice. So, yeah, it's a great game.
I agree with your other comment too, because actually the last time we tried to play, it was one of those things like we were going to play, and then we kind of went out to dinner, and it was like 10 o'clock till we got home, and it was like, are we playing? I was like, I can't. That's way too much. It is way too much to start getting out at 10 o'clock at night. But when you start at 10 o'clock in the morning and play all day, it's well worth it.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to tell me Friday night that he wants to play tomorrow, Saturday, and then I'll set it up while he's in bed or something, This isn't
it
one
is
you
a
just,
big box of game.
I mean, you don't just whip this out and play it like King of Tokyo or something, right?
Right.
All right, cool. Good game, though, and I've only ever played it with kids, but, I mean, it's a solid game, regardless. All right, ready for my number 2. So this is a game that I've talked about before. I don't know why. Maybe it was one of the themes or mechanisms videos, because I like this for a lot of different reasons. And this game is Kraftwagen. And Kraftwagen is themed around sort of the dawn of the automotive industry. So you are making these cars, and you are building cars that have different levels of engine, and they have different level of chassis. And there are different ways that you're competing with your opponents. So you can use your good engines to compete at the racetrack, and you can get points for doing that. There are milestones that you can complete about just having better vehicles. You put cars out for sale, and then people buy them at the end of each era. There's 3 eras, and the prices sort of, the points on offer each era sort of go up over time. And this is where the game gets a little cutthroat, actually, because there will be 6 cars for sale, but only 4, maybe 5, depending on if somebody has a special card, buyers. So, 1 or 2 of those cars are not going to get bought. So you have to not only get a car out there for sale, but you also have to get the right kind of buyer for that car. And what I mean by that is one buyer is going to buy the car with the best chassis, regardless of everything else. So when you put a car out, you put an engine, you put a chassis, you put at least one worker on it, like customer service person, and you put a price. So if you put the best chassis, the car out there with the best chassis, it can have the crappiest engine, and you can put the highest price on it. And as long as the chassis buyer is in the market, they will buy that car because it has the best chassis. But if somebody comes along behind you and puts the same chassis at a lower price, well, that person's going to buy that level 6 chassis or whatever it is at the lower price. Or say you put a car out there with a really good chassis, and everybody else manages to get the other buyers out before you get the buyers out. Now, sure, you've got a car out there with a great chassis, but the buyer who buys the good chassis is not in the market, because one is looking for there's two of each type of buyer, actually. So there could be two looking for a chassis, there could be two looking for an engine, there could be two looking for the one that has the most customer service tokens on it, and then there can be two that are just going to buy the cheapest car that's out there. And the one that's the cheapest car out there, you get double the price in points. So it's still a thing that you might want to go after. So it's got that interesting sort of cutthroat nature dynamic between putting the cars out and getting the buyers out. And it's not just as simple as like, what do you choose to do on your turn? It has that whole time track thing where you decide how far you want to jump ahead on the track to trigger the actions that you want to do. So there may be, there are several that are just one action, like get another worker or race your car one time on the track or, you know, build a chassis or whatever. But then there are others that have two things on them. And there's even one that has three, you know, but, if you skip too far ahead on the track, you're leaving all your opponents to do a bunch of stuff before you get another turn. So yeah, it's that's one of my favorite mechanisms as well. I talked about multi-use cards being one, but also this time track mechanism is one of my favorite things as well. I love the automotive theme, and I love that sort of cutthroat nature between the buyer and seller dynamic that this game has going on. I've played it at 3 players a few times, and I'm not sure 3 players is the best because you get a lot of, I'm going for chassis, I'm going for engines, sort of with your research and trying to improve. And so if you have 2 people going for one and the other person's doing something else, like it can be a little imbalanced maybe. It's still fun at 3. I just don't think it's as good as if you play at 4, which is the max player count. I would recommend this game at 4. I've never played it at 2. I don't even think it plays solo. It might be okay at 2. I just don't play a lot of 2-player games. So anyway, 4 is what I recommend, and 4 is what I played it at recently. I pulled it out because, you know, we talked about this a few months ago, and I was like, man, it's been a little while since I played this. I only had 4 people coming for game night, which is a rarity for me. Normally I have 5, 6 or more. And so I was like, I'm pulling this out because I miss this game. And this is probably, of all games in my collection, this is the one that I want to signal boost the most. This is the one that I don't know why people don't play this game more. Like, it's fantastic, and
it's twa. It's
yeah.
your twa.
and for a while, it was always on sale at Miniature Market for like $10 or $15 or something. Like, just throw it in on an order. Maybe they finally got rid of their stock. I mean, I guess it was just overprinted. But it's Matthias, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, Kramer, who did Isle of Skye, which has a time track thing going on, right? So it's really well done. And if you like the automotive theme, check it out.
How long is that game?
Well, you know, there's a little bit of explanation, right? But then, I don't know, an hour, hour and a half. It's not very long.
Ooh, that's
game.
not long at all.
Yeah.
The description made me think of Food Chain Magnate, which actually made me think of Horseless Carriage, which I've seen videos but haven't actually played yet. So.
See, I would have thought you would have jumped in with Kanban or something when you're.
We actually played Kanban yesterday.
Oh yeah, I really like Kanban. It is crunchy and it is long.
It's crunchy and long, yes.
Yeah, but I do like that game. Yeah.
Off on a total tangent, I think it's a masterpiece of a game. I just don't find it as much fun as some of the other Lacerdas. I love the Gallerist. I think it's fantastic. I love the theme. I love the bump out actions. I love all that's going on there. It's a lot more fun for me to play. But we also have friends that swear up and down on Kanban, so, you know.
It might be the only Lacerda I've ever played, actually, Kanban.
Is Kanban? Really?
Yeah, maybe. That's the only one I can think of right now.
We got to put Gallerist on the list. And if we ever do a theme of art or whatever, that's going to be a slam dunk on mine, if not both of our lists, probably.
Yeah, I played Kanban at a convention, and really that's probably the only place I'm going to get to play a longer game like that. I mean, if I bought a game and I scheduled a game day or something specifically for it, right? But I got to be all in on something for that, right? Buy an expensive game and then schedule a specific day to people come over, you know, like, all right, hold on.
Plus, I mean, it plays 4 max, and that's going to be a long game. You know, I know your game nights are usually 6, 7 people.
Yeah, I mean, I have had a few that were 5, and then we've even had some 4s recently. So I've been getting different games played, which is nice because, you know, I do have some good 4-player games in my collection that aren't just games that I would play with my kids or whatever, right? Like, I wouldn't play this game with my kids. I don't think they would be interested in the theme, and it's probably a little too in depth for some 9-year-olds. But one of my sons.
That means you'll win.
Well, I don't care about that. But one of my friends will sit there and play, like he'll watch us play, and then he wants to play it. Like, oh, he wants to play Planet Unknown now, right? He wants me to just break out these games that he's seen us play at game night. I'm like, all right, well, we'll give it a shot. I don't know if we have anybody left on the stream, but if anybody on the stream wants to give a shout out for a game, we can talk about that. If anybody's played anything fantastic recently, I'm looking forward to getting some games played. I'm looking forward to the Dice Tower convention that is coming up soon. We're all going to get together. I mean, so many people from the channel are going to be there. The three of us are going to be there. Cory almost certainly will be there. John is going to be there. Patrick is going to be there. Brian is going to be there. That is a large percentage of the channel. I don't know if Jim Jam's going to make it. Jim Jam and Lloyd are probably not going to be there.
Or maybe briefly at times. You never know.
Yeah, it's tricky with these cons. They don't ever sell one-day passes, right? You've got to buy the whole 5 days or whatever it is. And so for people who can only make it one day, it's a bit, it's a bit of a stretch. But hey, I signed up to go to BGG Con in, November. And man, I just got to say, we are a bit spoiled here at how much gaming that we can just drive to, because I got to I booked a hotel and a plane flight for BGG Con, and the ticket is nothing compared to that stuff.
Yeah, right. And yeah, that's a good point, because you got Dice Tower Cruise and all that stuff,
Yeah,
around here in central-ish Florida.
We've driven to the Dice Tower Cruise. I've just driven into the Dice Tower Con and the Escape Winter Convention several times. I am actually staying at the hotel this time. There was the Dice Tower Retreat that was in Orlando that one year, which was awesome, and I stayed at the hotel for that. There's the Dice Tower Retreat every year that's in South Florida. I don't go to that one. There's only so much I could do. Somebody posted, let's see, fairly certain I bought more games than I've played. Only 2 games I can think of are Dice Throne, not Marvel yet, and my game of the month, Ice Cool.
Cool. Nice.
One of the things I like about Ice Cool is you can just make a giant version with Ice Cool and Ice Cool 2, right? Yeah, that's cool. Also, I've seen a giant version of Ice Cool.
That's true.
Nice.
I've also seen a giant version.
I had Ice Cool, and I gave it away, which is a little bit of a shame because I think maybe my kids would like it. But I gave it to a family member, my cousin's son, for Christmas a few years ago. And, I thought this would be, he's not a board gamer, right? But I thought, well, this isn't a board gamer.
It's
game,
not a board game,
right? It's just a dexterity game.
Yeah,
it's a
exactly.
game. But I never heard about it, which makes me think he probably just didn't even like it. I don't even know if he played it, so that's a bit of a shame. Maybe I should go get it back from him.
Right? Hey, are you still using this?
Yeah, I need to ask my cousin next time I'm out there. Yeah, I'll get my copy of Ice Cool back. It is a little bit. The box is not small, but it's not like it's a wasted space. I mean, it is the board, all the box, right? So,
Yeah. Absolutely. It's kind of oddly shaped for what we're used to for games, but
yeah, it was more like an old Monopoly shaped.
Yeah,
Monopoly,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Scrabble, those.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
It'll slot right in with those.
Yeah, if I get that game back, it's going in the kids' game closet where. You know how a kid's closet is. Just pile stuff in there. I don't care. It doesn't need to fit neatly on the shelves. It doesn't need to fit in a little cubicle. I've just got some wire shelves in there. So whatever. I don't care about the box size. In fact, I think I have Scotland Yard in there.
Scotland Yard.
I did actually try to play Scotland Yard with my gaming group, and they didn't like it. So I put it in the kids' closet because I enjoyed that game a lot when I was a kid. I don't know why. There is a new version of Scotland Yard that is themed on Sherlock Holmes, and you can play the traditional way to play, and there's a new game mode that actually looked pretty interesting. I watched the Watch It Played video on how to play it, and I was like, it's one of those things, though, where I see something like that, and I'm like, ooh, I want to buy that. But then I'm like, but I already got a copy of Scotland Yard, like the old 1986 version or whatever.
Yeah, that's the one we have,
And that's like a family heirloom at this point. Like, I don't want to get rid of that. So what am I going to have, 2 copies of Scotland Yard? I don't know. Yeah.
What do you think? Your group just didn't like the hidden movement of it?
or maybe the deduction component. I think, I mean, I played this a million times as a kid, and I don't think I ever lost as the detective. I think I always was able to figure it out. I think Mr. X was at a disadvantage. So when I played with my group, I played as Mr. X, and I just ran rings around them, I guess. You know, I started just doing dumb things like trying to reappear at the same spot on the times when you had to reappear. You know, like I was doing things
like
that were
taunting them, like
yeah. Well, I mean, I was trying to make it a little, you know, fun for me, and then maybe give them a shot, you know, because I'm just like, yeah, 2 times black ticket, and they're like, you could be anywhere. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Interesting. Have you played like Fury or Spectre Ops or anything like that?
No, I have played that weird Alien hidden movement.
Oh,
game
Escape from
that has
Aliens in
no
Outer
art.
Space.
Yeah, that one. But I haven't played a lot of
You know
hidden
that one,
movement
babe.
games.
Big Head killed 3 of you on the same spot on the same action.
Yep.
Oh,
I
that's
remember that.
awesome.
I was heartbroken.
I would like to play Furia Dracula. I would like to play, you know, really, I would like to try. What is there's an Alien sort of hidden movement game. Is it like
well, Spectre Ops.
Spectre Ops? Is that not
Yeah,
Alien
it's not.
themed?
It's
No.
not Geiger Alien. It's
Yeah.
aliens.
Sci-fi.
Yeah.
Yes, but
It's
more
aliens,
sci-fi
yeah.
aliens. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't want anybody to get confused and think it's that whole Geiger, you know.
Yeah. There's a difference between space
Sigourney
aliens
Weaver.
and
Right.
aliens.
Right. Which is Nemesis. That's Nemesis.
Yeah. We've got a Fury of Dracula fan here in the chat. I did get a copy of Fury of Dracula to give to somebody for Secret Santa one time. You guys like Fury of Dracula?
I like it quite a bit. I'm going to be honest with you. Here's my problem. My problem is I always end up having to teach it, which basically means I have to be Dracula. And apparently, after 50 years, I finally realized I'm terrible at that. I always get caught. I get caught quickly and early and beat up. So, in theory, I really like that game. But like I said, I keep having to be Dracula who gets beat up, killed. You know, that's like, oh,
Hey, you
I
know,
hope everybody had fun.
that's
Yeah,
a fun.
There's this whole
That's a
build up to me getting bloodied on the turn 3 is what happens.
That's a fun video, by the way. Games that I like playing, even though I'm bad at them.
Yeah, exactly.
I already know number 1 on my list. I would have to think about the other.
Me too.
But yeah, number 1 on my list was a game that I was really bad at, and I got a little bit better at it after I played it on the app. But anyway, I don't want to spoil it in case we actually do that list. Put it on the list.
bad.
Yeah,
list.
put it on the list of lists in that list.
Yeah. Let's see.
Excellent.
Neutral says the best hidden movement game is War of the Ring, and I would love to play War of the Ring, but I have not.
Yeah, that's true.
I
I
actually
wasn't
didn't-
really thinking of it like that as a hidden movement.
I didn't
game.
even know it was a hidden movement game, although that makes perfect sense. I mean, if
Yeah.
they knew where the hobbits were, that wouldn't be much of a book or movie, would it?
Right, exactly.
Just go
That's
smush
interesting.
them.
It absolutely falls into the category. I just would never have mentally thought of that as a hidden movement game.
Yeah, cool.
But it is.
We didn't do a hidden movement mechanisms video, did we?
I don't think so.
Oh, I don't
Yeah.
think we did.
Yeah, I mean, we left a lot of mechanisms on the table when we shifted
Indeed.
to themes, and I'm sure we'll go back at some point. I don't
Pick
know.
up where we left off.
Yeah, we'll see, right? But first we have to get through a bunch of the gaming through themes so we can have another tournament. So we can have the
Yes.
most thematic board game of all time tournament.
Yes. Which,
So, and
which
that
I will
is
not agree with. I'm just telling you.
yeah. Well, you liked the best board game of all time based on mechanisms was
That's
Gloomhaven,
true.
right? So
I
you know.
agree. Yes.
So you agreed with the final pick, but I will say, so if you out there who watch our channel want us to make sure that we cover a specific theme before we do the most thematic board game of all time tournament, you got to let us know to cover that theme. Otherwise, we might miss something that's just a gem because we didn't get to that video before we did the tournament. So you got to let us know.
And I'm just saying, I have a couple of games that I'm holding in reserve for specific themes in case we do them. So
Yeah,
I'm like
well-
cutting them off of other lists. I'm like, ooh, it would qualify for that, but I'm not using it with that.
Yeah.
I'm saving it.
Maybe I'll have to do a wild card bracket for games that are just really thematic and we haven't gotten to yet. So
Wild card.
we'll see. All right, cool. Well, I think that wraps it up for today. Thank you for joining us on this live stream of our top plays of March and April. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share, subscribe, all that stuff, and you can come join us in discussions about board games. You can just leave a comment here on YouTube if you want, but even better is look in the description of the video below. There's a link to our Discord channel. We're in there all day. I don't actually do any real work or anything, so just, you know, come chat with me about board games. I'm kidding. I have a lot of work to do. But anyway, come join us over there. But until next time, I'm Steven. That's Erock. That's Tiffany. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for coming, Neutral.
Bye, guys.
All right, I ended the stream.